I think the Democrats are hemorrhaging voters because they've chosen all the wrong constituencies. They seem to care more about illegal aliens than American citizens, violent criminals than law-abiding citizens, and the Palestinian flag more than the American flag.
That is not true, and that is
when you take those positions on things like that, people tend to run to the other party.
Bombshell reporting from the New York Times shows the Democrats are in fact hemorrhaging millions of voters, literally millions in this nation. They are so backwards on all of the big issues of the day that people are abandoning them in droves, which of course is nothing new. And I love to see this happen. But of course, the people over at the Morning Joe, they're a little perplexed. They're a little worried, but that's exactly what we're going to see being discussed. Now, before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Molly, I took a sip of water. I've taken, breathing into a paper bag. I'm trying to calm down a little bit. But John just quoted a remarkable stat out of the New York Times that in the 30 states where they track voter registration over the past 4 years, Democrats have lost to Republicans in every single state. Why?
So this is the $24 million question, right? Why are Democrats not, why are the polls bad? Why are they not breaking through? And I think it's a couple things. I think one is the people who are breaking through are brave, right? They talk like humans, they make the case, and again, it's like Pritzker's chief of staff told me, it's not necessarily left versus center, it's fight versus cave. And the people who fight get support. And the people who cave or are mealy-mouthed or are, very sort of corporatist-y, that crew, the crew that's afraid, cannot break through, does not appeal to voters. Voters want really their electeds to fight for that.
Do Democrats feel betrayed by their elected leaders?
I think that's what those polling numbers are saying. But that's to say, like people like Sherrod Brown jumped into the race, raised $3-point-something million in 24 hours. Like, there is support there. The question is, it's only going to be for people who really feel authentic, right?
Sherrod's never been afraid of his shadow.
Exactly.
He's always spoken his mind.
Chris Murphy, Sherrod Brown, Mondami, these people, AOC, they're not all exactly the same politically, but they are the same in the fact that they're brave and they break through. And you have to remember, if you look at the 2024 cycle, there were people Googling on election day, did Joe Biden drop out? Remember that? Mm-hmm. She did not break through. And part of that is because you have to go everywhere. You have to talk to everyone. From Bill Maher to Joe Rogan, you have to go everywhere because the media is so siloed that people who watch one network don't know what's happening on other networks.
Right. So what better news could we possibly get? Other than the Democrat Party is, of course, sinking in popularity, but also these people out here, these pundits, still don't quite get the message. Now, before we jump into that, I do want to point out from this story, yes, from the New York Times that I mentioned earlier, there was a giant swing. Democrats actually lost 2.1 million voters in terms of registration between 2020 and 2024. In the meantime, Republicans gained 2.4 million voters. All right, that's a swing of 4.5. Okay, and as of 2023, Democrats only had a 1% lead in terms of registration, affiliation, party leanings, etc. So I'm willing to wager that is gone now, but I couldn't really find any information on that, right? But this is tremendous news. In all of these states, the 30 states that actually show party affiliation in terms of registration, here it is, right? Republicans are up in all 30. But the question being asked by Joe Scarborough there is why? And Molly has some pretty good points, but she doesn't quite understand what's going on, right? She does mention a couple of things that are true. First of all, yes, it is the fighters. People tend to flock to those who speak loudly, who stand boldly, who are willing to fight for something. That's exactly why Donald Trump became as popular as he was, because so many Republicans and conservatives were tired of the weak, ineffective Republicans, right? We were tired of being controlled opposition. We were tired of people saying one thing and then doing the exact opposite. But then Donald Trump came down in all of his bombast and said, hey, I'm actually going to build a wall. I'm going to deport people. I'm going to try to bring businesses back to America, right? We're going to make America great again. That's why people liked him, because he was a fighter, all right? And then later on in 2016, after he was elected, he proved himself to be quite effective. But what Molly is missing is the reason why people really abandoned the Democrats. It wasn't because they didn't have fighters. It wasn't because they didn't have opposition, because basically that's all they ever do. It was because they didn't have a platform that people agreed with. right? We've all talked about wokeness ad nauseum, right? The support of the LGBTQ plus movement, so much so that it's just shoved down your throats every single second of every single day. And heaven forbid you try to sit down to watch sports or TV show because the commercials are going to be inundated to you and your children while you're just simply trying to relax. Then, of course, you have the trans issues, the men in women's sports, right? The women's safe spaces being taken away, accolades, scholarships, every single place being invaded. All right. Then, of course, you have the wide open southern border with illegal immigrants coming into this country. All of the worst possible things that could happen to a society were happening under Joe Biden. And every single person saw it. They didn't like it. And they turned away from the Democrat Party. Not to mention, of course, all of the jobs and manufacturing being given away to other countries with no one trying to actually bring them back except for Donald Trump. So those, of course, are the real reasons why people are abandoning the Democrat Party, because they don't have an acceptable platform. But of course, the Democrats are being pushed further and further left. And the people who are supposedly the fighters right now, the Momdamis and the AOCs, guess what? They're socialists. So the Democrats are going to see themselves increasingly isolated across America, because while their socialist ideas are going to go quite well in New York and California and Oregon and other blue places, it's not going to fly in middle America. So the Democrat Party is being pushed further and further left. They don't have a platform that mainstream America can agree on. And of course, they've taken all of the wrong positions on all of the most important topics of the day. That's why the Democrats, of course, are facing this huge hemorrhage in party affiliation, this huge hemorrhage in voter registration. And it couldn't be better news for the rest of us, because as I've said, I like to win elections and I like to win them easily, which hopefully will happen in 2026. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.